Because you can drive at many construction sites up 19 here and see nobody's policing that. But I think on the books, you're not supposed to leave soil at any construction site open, bare, uncovered for more than 7 days. I'm taking it you saw that law broken, that regulation violated.
Every law that they probably have on the books were broken.
Oh.
I had well sites opened up for over 2 years before they came in to reclaim.
Now, without disclosing any name here, because we are not demonizing anybody here, and the opinions that we are sharing here are our own. Is this company still operating in the region? Or in
Correct.
Have you seen any improvement? Or have they changed their ways any? Or business as usual?
It's business as usual. They may have cleaned up a little as far as if you go along the main roads and the sites are very visible, then they seem to doctor them up. But you get off onto the off roads, get off on the back roads and go back in and check, they're a mess.
All right. So very early on in your lease, you saw signs that this wasn't going to be what you thought it was, and you started getting worried. They did damage to some of your land, putting in the access roads. What else has really disenfranchised you or made you become disenchanted with this whole thing?
Well, first of all, their lease, and I never really studied that lease. I just didn't do it, and that was my ignorance. All I thought was, I worked in this business for approximately 6 years. I'm not an expert at it by no means, but I've been on hundreds of well sites.
Gas or oil? Or
both.
Both, wow.
Both. And I covered 28 rigs. And I moved to Warren, Pennsylvania. And I covered all of western New York, and I had everything north of Interstate 80. So I ran hard, and I knew how hard it was to work. I even worked on a rig, which I wasn't supposed to do, but I did it on a side for a tool pusher because I wanted to learn, and that's the only way to learn is hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
So some evenings when he was short and one of the roughnecks would be out partying too hard the night before, he would call me, and I'd go running out to wherever he was working, and I would help out for how many hours that he would need me, because I was always on call. Because the company I worked for, I sold bits, I sold drill tools. So, and I was on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and I loved it. I mean, I loved it. I loved that industry. But what's happening now, and the way that I was treated, and my neighbors have been treated, and I absolutely hate it. I despise it. You feel like you have been violated. And I have a pond that it's a little over 2.5 acres. Well, it got contaminated. The water turned almost black. Then all the vegetation in it died. And then the pond turned into, like, as I say, a copper color or a rust color. And I've heard numerous various people say the same thing. Their pond turned rust color, or a stream turned rust color, just like at Cross Creek when they had their spill out at Cross Creek Lake. The water was a rust color. And I researched that with another individual at the DEP's office, because we did file reviews.
And what did you guys find there?
Well, first of all, they claimed that it was vandalism. It wasn't vandalism. What happened was someone messed up and didn't tighten the bolts down, because after that they had that line put in, they said in this file review they did a 150-pound PSI, 150 PSI pressure test on that line. Well, I can tell you right now, I work around air, I work around hydraulics because I sell heavy equipment for a living. I can tell you right now, if 150 PSI is coming out of a crack on a line or at a joint, if you will, or a collar, you're going to hear that thing hissing 100, 200, 300 yards back. I mean, you're going to hear it. Well, that was what was in the file review, and it also, what we were looking for was a police report for vandalism. There wasn't a police report. And when I did a file review there, I was told, because I had so many complaints on my property, and I saw things that I was totally unfamiliar with when I worked in the industry. The flow pit was black, and I asked, well, what's that? And I said, why is that, why does that look like that? I asked one individual. And he said, oh, don't worry about it. He said, it's fine. And I remember him I said, well, if that stuff's fine, I said, I'd like to get a cup and let you take a drink of that. I said, my water well's down over the hill here. I said, the water runs from this pond down the valley, down toward my house, where my well is. He said, well, it's biodegradable. I said, okay. So evidently, I guess I had a neon sign on my forehead that said stupid. So I just chuckled because no matter what I asked them, and I try to ask them in a reasonable manner, you know, I'm a gentleman, I'm not a wild man like they want to portray that I am. Until you disrespect me, then I turn into a wild man. Because it's my property. And it's my family that I'm worried about, and it's my community.
Are you currently on, is your water situation, Water Buffalo provided at this time?
No.
No.
I do not. We brought water in as soon as I knew what was happening from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And the water from the first well that they did, the first road that they cut in, and they put the slag, the mill slag up above our house, we started hauling water in.
Okay.
So that would have been in
at your
05.
expense. This is your expense now.
Oh yeah, well I get it right from my mom,
Okay.
my mom's house.
Okay,
my mom lives 11 miles away.
And there's nobody subsidizing your water supply. This is out of your pocket right now.
Correct. And then that's another game that was played when they test the water, because they use a company up in Indiana, PA, that they sub out to a lab. But they weren't testing for VOCs. They weren't testing for drilling fluids. They only do a normal water test.
Hardness and
Bacteria,
nitrates, phosphates, yeah, the usual generic kinds of tests, yeah.
And I didn't know any of this. You know, I mean,
yeah.
You know, this is a learning curve for me.
Yeah.
The whole thing was a learning curve. It was all a learning process. But again, it was a struggle from the very beginning. Again, with the pond, when it died off, as far as all the vegetation died, there are fish in it.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't kill all the fish. I did have a fish kill. That was the pond got affected in July of 06. May of 07, I had a fish kill. Also, back in 06, when I noticed the pond, I went to the overflow pipe, and it runs into the stream, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The water looked like, the bottom of the stream looked like black velvet from bank to bank. I said, what in the world? Of course, the DEP rep is there, the industry rep is there. They have their hands behind their back. Oh, yeah. Oh, we don't know what that is. They look at the pond. Well, yeah, there's a problem, but we don't know where it's coming from. So, common sense, you know, you just use common sense. I walk up behind the pond. I check the stream that's feeding the pond. The stream there was fine. It wasn't black. Then I proceeded to go to a golf course, which I looked at their last pond that feeds a stream.
So this is in the same sub-watershed.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct,
right,
correct.
Right.
Same watershed.
Yeah, yeah.
So I go to up to the pond, I look at it. Vegetation's fine. Pond's green. Vegetation's fine. My pond is a rust color, and the vegetation's dead.
Mm.
And who brought it to my attention was my friend who went over the fish, because, as I've told this story so many times, I'm busy. You know, I love to work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a workaholic, and you're cutting grass, you're working in a garden, you're working on equipment, you have a family to raise,
Mm-hmm.
and plus I'm fighting with these guys. So and I just try to bury myself in the work, trying to keep my head together.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the rep from the DEP said, Ron, your farm is a textbook case of what not to do. And that's burned in the back of my brain. And he said, Ron, we have an album of photographs at the DEP's office. And he showed me with his finger and his thumb,
Mm-hmm.
you know, maybe half-inch thick. And he said, your name has been brought up in more meetings. I said, okay. I said, well, I've had enough of problems here, don't you think?
So you're a well-documented case study, but has any, I mean, the DEP is charged with ensuring that our waterways are safe and clean. And at least I know in the coal industry, if the mining operation compromises any of your water, it's up to the company to set that right. As far as you know, with Marcellus Shale development, are the laws that way also?
Well, I can tell you right now, the laws that are in place were not being regulated by no stretch of the imagination. They were very lenient, and when